Hello and welcome to our webinar, Current State of Ecommerce Site Search. Hi, my name is Monal Patel and I work for Unbox. And this is the latest in our ongoing Unbox webinar series where we talk about very specific topics that help online retailers solve challenges and identify opportunities to grow their business. Our webinar series comes with different topics, with different focus, and today we come to talk to you about evolution of site search and what is its current state. So we're taking a little bit of a dive in history and show where do we come from and where are we going from site search perspective. To give you a little bit of an idea of who we are, for those folks that are listening to us for the first time, our company is called Unboxed. My name is Monal Patel, and I'm the SVP and Chief Business Officer for Unbox. We're a California-based company with about 1,200 customers globally and 300 plus customers right here in the US. What makes us very unique is that we have solved some of the site search problems that we're going to show you today that were not solved before. And our solution is customized for all our retailers, regardless of their size. And we are very competitive in our services also. And we have a tremendous expertise in scale and ability to scale up and scale out. Okay, so let's get into some of the customers. We work with Target.com, Newegg.com, Bell's Department Stores, Burke's Outlet, Jabong, some pure online retailers, IR 250, IR 500 level retailers like Wag Parts, Shindig, Development, etc. And our solution also works on a lot of different platforms like Magento, Demandware, PrestaShop, etc. And we also work with custom platforms. If you do not use any of the popular platforms and you're purely on a custom platform, we also work with that. Okay, so enough about us. So let's talk a little bit about what's the agenda for today. So why site search? We'll make a small business case to understand site search for those folks who might still be thinking of why do I need to invest in this. We'll also show you the evolution of site search. Where did we come from to its current state? And then explain to you where we see all the different site search solutions in its current state. And what does the future really hold? Okay, and what are the elements and how do you need to determine which future you want to go with? We'll finish off with some key takeaways and some questions and answers. Okay? All right. So, site search. Why should we care? Well, there has been a paradigm shift in user behavior where you can absolutely see in even your own statistics that more and more customers are using site search. Over 30% of e-commerce use now site search. That is typical for any industry. But if you have a larger catalog, the bigger the catalog you have, more site search users you will have. For example, in enterprise class customers that we work with, sometimes almost 60, 70% of customers use site search. Users who use site search are 70% more likely to convert. That is a very important number to remember. Customers who are using site search have a very high intent and hence are absolutely looking for what they want to buy. And if they can find it, they're going to buy it and more likely to convert. And 90% of the users who search never go to the second page. This is an important statistic because what this really tells us is that customers who search are absolutely looking for relevant results on the first page itself. And most customers, 90% of them, don't bother going to the second page. Okay. So what are the changing demands from site search today? Based on your business, you may encounter anywhere between 30 to 60% long tail searches. Why is this important to note is because in today's day and age, more and more customers are using more keywords to describe what they want. If you look at Google 5 years ago, maybe 40% of queries were 2 keywords or more. And now almost 70 to 75% queries are 2 keywords or more. And those types of queries are very rare because you can have lots of different permutations and combinations. So you need to be able to start solving these types of queries. Simple text-based search engines are not cut out to handle long tail queries. What is becoming important now is that It's very important to understand that um, just by doing keyword pattern match, you cannot solve these long tail queries, especially with multi-word long tail queries. Okay. Next is site search. Sites with text-based search reports an average of 40% abandonment. Now, you might have realized, even looking at your own data, is that when customers are using search and if they don't see relevant results, and you can test it yourself, that will be the last page that they'll see. So customers abandon sites, especially when results are not relevant. An intelligent context-aware site search can reduce site abandonment due to search failures all the way to 2%. And we've seen that in the industry over and over again, where as soon as you add more intelligence to search, your abandonment rate goes down. And so it is very important to understand how intelligent you make the site search, whether you do it manually or you do it automatically using algorithms, depends on how much scale you need. Okay. So what are the benefits of site search? Just quickly, higher conversions because those customers are very likely to buy. So if you make site search better, you will definitely improve your conversions, which ultimately is improving your sales. Improving visits and new leads. If new customers come to the site, this is a slight differentiator you need to understand. If a new customer is coming to the site and they use site search just to see if you guys sell this product or not that they're looking for, and they can't find it, it is very unlikely that they'll return back because you don't carry that product. And that is a worse experience than them not finding it and still being engaged on the site some other way. Because if they don't come back to the site, they get this mental image that you do not carry these types of products. Enhancing brand image, showing better relevancy, showing better products and results gives the customers the confidence that this site knows what they're doing, has my back in terms of technology. It's going to be easy shopping on this site, which also ultimately enhances loyalty because now it's very easy to find products. So if I ever want any product, depending on the vertical you're selling, I know exactly where to go and always improve the loyalty. Okay. So let's get into a little bit of the evolution of site search. All right. To understand why these benefits are important and how our economy, how humanity has come to this from e-commerce perspective, understanding our past will be very helpful. Okay. So let's understand how did we get started. So site search or enterprise search actually evolved from web search. In 1990, Alan Amtage developed Archie, short for archive, the first internet search engine. It was capable of fetching and indexing files on FTP servers. Okay. The public version of Alta Vista, we were able to find some screenshots of that. They're not perfect, but we were able to find these, where the public version of Alta Vista was launched in 1995, developed by Digital Equipment Corporation Network Systems Lab. Oof, talk about a long name. It could index the web using web crawlers, tracking not only the URLs, but the entire content as well. At that time, it was serving up to about 25 million queries per day. Okay. At the height of dot-com bubble, now let's converge into the e-commerce aspect. And obviously Google is the big story. Yahoo also had their search engine. We don't want to necessarily get into that piece. We want to try to figure out how did e-commerce evolve very quickly. At the height of dot-com bubble, a lot of third-party search vendors such as Endeca, Adams, Fast Search, and Transfer began rolling out site search products. This is 99, 2000. Adams started in 98 by Steve Kuzmer and Mike Thompson started offering site search on SaaS. Endeca, which began operations in 99, was considered a pioneer of faceted navigation at that time. They didn't start out with search, but they actually started with faceted navigation. Then they realized search is another opportunity they need to explore. Even though a lot of products were available in the market, site search remained very labor intensive. For instance, to change inventory, people managing search had to manually alter quantity. The search solutions were mostly hosted on-premise, were very expensive, and required a lot of support and upgrades. 2002, Google launched a rack-mounted device called Google Search Appliance that provided document indexing functionality capable of indexing anywhere between 10 to 30 million documents. It could integrate into any document management system. This actually started the commoditization of site search products providing cheaper alternatives to the big players such as Endeca. However, there was a lot of opportunity still. 2003, Amazon launched A9, a division and independent company to release products in search and advertising. It developed efforts in areas of product search, cloud search, visual search, etc. Provided services to different subsidiaries to Amazon and a few other retailers such as Marks and Spencer, etc. Some even say it was Amazon's answer to Google search. In 2004, Yannick Seeley at CNET Networks created the first Solar instance as an in-house project to add search capability to CNET Networks. In 2006, CNET released the source code to public by donating it to Apache Software Foundation, and soon has emerged as the famous open source enterprise search platform used widely by many. In 2010, Lucene, a search engine library, and Solar, the search server, merged into one to improve efficiencies of both. And of course, we've got to talk about Unbox. In 2011, Unbox was founded and so began the groundwork for a very intelligent site search engine. And we'll also talk about why Unbox was formed, on what foundation, and where all of these search engines sort of stopped and where Unbox picked up. In 2012, Unbox launched the first version of site search product to offer relevant, contextual-aware search that understands customers' intent. Okay. All right. Now, as far as Unbox goes, we've obviously grown into a mega company now, almost 1,200 customers, and we are constantly releasing new versions of not only our search, but also developing another human usable search element to search, so to site search, and also personalizing, and we'll show and talk about that as well in a second. Okay. Companies realized the importance of search. Notice how the size of search bar itself has become more prominent over the years. You can see here Amazon in 1998, how small the search box was. And obviously folks didn't realize at that time how important search was. This is eBay in 99. You can see very small search box. Everything else is out there. This is Walmart in 2000. A little bit bigger search box. Now this is Amazon in 2008, and you can see the search box has definitely gotten bigger. eBay in 2008, you can see the improvement there. Walmart in 2008. Okay. By 2015, site search has literally taken the center stage for e-commerce sites. You can see how prominent search bar has become. This is Amazon today, and how clean and very visually appealing that search box is, because it can easily attract your attention. This is eBay, very first thing that you see, the biggest thing that you see on the site. And here's Walmart with a dark background and a white base for the form, stands out from everything else. So now let's see and take a look at the components of site search that have evolved. Okay. So a major innovation in online search was autocomplete. As users started typing the search query, they were shown search suggestions that helps them get to the right keyword. The origin of autocomplete in search can be dated back to 2004, developed by Kevin Gibbs as part of Google's side project called Google Suggest. Initially, he conceptualized the idea as a URL predictor. That is, as you started typing in the URL of a browser, it would autocomplete the remaining options by analyzing Google's immense corpus of web content. But then it found its way in search. After a lot of testing, August 2008, it was made available by default in Google search. Okay. E-commerce warmly embraced the idea because it paved the path and make logical sense, because you want to guide the customer when they're looking at your autocomplete. If you don't do that, the onus is on the customer to actually figure out what query to type in. So you lose control on what the customer is typing in. And second, you don't get the opportunity to share with the customer exactly how much you have to show in terms of what your catalog is. Okay. So this is in 2009, as you can see, some preliminary instances of how autocomplete looked like back then for Dell, Microsoft, and Apple. Here's more of a modern version in today's day and age, what's important for an autocomplete. You can see with newegg.com what Unbox has done is that you're showing keywords, but also providing scope suggestions within those keywords in case you just were looking for a category of products. Matching brands, because it's extremely important. Newegg is a marketplace with millions, tens of millions of products, and you want to make sure that brands that drive a lot of this conversion are also something that get highlighted. And then you also still make recommendations. You start making recommendations as soon as, based on understanding the data and what customers end up searching for. Okay. All right. Next element, this is we talked about autocomplete, that's number one. Next is faceted navigation, or simply faceted search, you could also say that. Helps user to filter results to their liking. While faceted navigation made inroads in e-commerce early in 2000, still a lot of e-commerce sites don't provide faceted search. Even today, not more than 40% of all top grossing sites offer faceted search. And when we talk about faceted search, it's really talking about searching for something and providing relevant filters. It's not just about showing, oh, we have price and we may show category and stuff like that. You actually want to show relevant filters. So if I'm looking at shoes, show me size as a relevant filter, show me color, show me brand, etc. This is how Amazon.com provides faceted navigation on its site. As you can see, by searching for shoes, you can see the left-hand side where it clearly identifies what filters you can use, or even at the top, clearly identifies the brands and highlights the brands. All right. Let's take a look at the current state of e-commerce site search now, because we'll talk about the third element, which is relevancy. And from a relevancy perspective, it is important to understand that you can figure out the type ahead, you can figure out the filters, but relevancy is a very difficult problem to solve by in itself. Okay, so what is the challenge that e-commerce sites are facing today for relevancy perspective? Most e-commerce sites engines still follow outdated technologies, resulting in poor relevancy. And many e-commerce sites lack essential usability elements, such as autocomplete, faceted navigation, etc. And most sites offer no personalization. So here you can see on the left, I'm searching for a black maxi dress on Charming Charlie. However, when I navigated to maxi dress filtered for black color, you can actually see those products. Here's another example of results not being relevant. Even for two-worded search queries, the site results return irrelevant results. As you can see here, white dresses is what we looked for, and it's not showing correct results. Here's an example of autocomplete where only products are shown in suggestions but not categories. So what this does is it makes it very difficult for customers to get guided. If I had no idea what I'm looking for, I just want to go look at that category and try to figure out what I'm looking to buy. Likewise, most e-commerce sites which offer faceted search do not provide enough filters for users to narrow their search. Here is another example where the site does provide multi-select filtering, but redundant filters are being shown here. Like a user has searched for kitchen sinks, but it's shown category filters for bathroom. Okay. So what does the future of sites really hold? We can see that there are clear gaps in the way current site search functions, both from a design and technology standpoint. The future, however, will see dramatic changes in the way both function. So before we get into the next phase, we want to do a quick poll and get a count of where our audience really stands today. So the question is, how do you ensure relevant search results on your site? Okay. Do you manually fix queries by creating rules? Or your search does it intuitively? You have an intuitive system that does that? Or you do nothing about it? Okay. So there are three important aspects to this particular approach that Unbox is taking in terms of site search and its future. You absolutely want to solve relevancy. That is a given, especially for long tail keywords. Personalization in search. This is going to become extremely important because the more customers start using search and more personalized search results show up, the better the chance that they have to buying a product. And it helps also to be combined with intelligent design and layout. You have to combine good technology with human design so that it's more usable and easy to experience. Okay, so let's talk with first cornerstone relevancy. Let's look at how to achieve impeccable search relevancy and what approach Unbox really takes. So clearly, customers want relevant search experience. If they can't find the product in the first fold of the results, they're most likely to abandon the site and the search. And most site search engines still use outdated technology. So there are three techniques that existing search engines use, which is why we believe doing relevancy in a very different way is the future. Free text matching or pattern match. And there are a couple of different ways that this gets done. One is you can do or. So let's say I'm looking for women's white jeans. I'm looking for women's or white or jeans, which produces bad results because it could result in women's shoes, white jacket, and maybe jeans. Second is and. So you do women's and white and jeans. The problem with that is if the word women's doesn't exist in the catalog, that product won't show up. And the third is called minimum match, which does not help because it's still doing an or. So you might do women's white or white jeans or women's jeans, and you might still end up showing women's white shoes, women's white jackets, etc. So these current techniques that are being used work okay for one word queries, which is only 20 to 30% of all search queries on a site nowadays. If you remember the stats we shared, in 2010, almost 40,000 of Google's queries were 2 words or more. Now, in 2015, 70 to 75% of all Google queries are 2 words or more. And they're getting more and more longer, where it's getting more towards 3 words or more. So these techniques that are currently deployed, ORing, ANDing, or minimum match, cannot function for 2 keywords or more long tail keywords. So manual optimization is required for the rest, which is not scalable, especially if you have thousands of queries a month. You cannot sit there and manually figure out every single query because with 2 words or 3 words, the combinations and the permutation combination is endless. So it's impossible to keep up because if you keep up in a month, your catalog might change the next month or within 2 months or 2 weeks sometimes. So it is impossible to keep up. And that is the reason why we believe a scalable solution is required. That is the true limitation of today's search engines. Okay, so let's take a quick, the example we talked about was women's white jeans. So here's, I guess I talked about a little bit further ahead. So ORing, ANDing, minimum partial match exactly is the limitation of today's techniques. Now, why is it that even by deploying some relevancy systems like Solar, Lucene, and Deca, these types of queries don't actually produce better results? Because everybody uses an algorithm called TF-IDF, all search engines, including Endeca, including Solar. And that has a very big limitation in terms of how it figures out what products and what keywords are really important. So let's say a quick example. If we were to talk about, let's say women's white jeans, here's the 4 products we show as an example. And why does a white top show up when women's white jeans is being searched? So to illustrate this, let's assume that these are the IDF scores for women's white jeans and for these products, these numbers in the bottom. What happens now is that TF-IDF's limitation is that it will not understand the importance of a keyword. It only understands popularity or rarity. So TF is term frequency, which tells us popularity, and IDF is inverse document frequency, which tells you how rare this keyword is. And based on that, it tries to give scoring to each product, which is not a great way to solve relevancy for e-commerce. It was great for document searching, but not for e-commerce. For e-commerce, you need something called a relevance gain, which is calculating usefulness of the query. So here you can see IDF scores are women's has the highest score, jeans has the lowest score. But we know that in e-commerce context, jeans is the most important keyword, then women's, and then white. So what now needs to happen is understanding that you now show more jeans up top, and then you not show loosely irrelevant products towards the bottom. Okay. The next bit is to remove irrelevant products. That is the second challenge. So even if I now bring the irrelevant products to the bottom of the page, bottom of the results, let's say for example, a customer could still interact with the filters, with the sorting options. So you still have to remove irrelevant results. So understanding that this is a top and not a jeans is the second problem to solve. Which product is this, and is it truly relevant or should be excluded? Becomes an important question. And that's what Unbox has also figured out. We exclude irrelevant results and we show more jeans. Okay. Okay, so what is the benefit of having a system that actually figures this out? Okay. The idea is it's intelligent, so it is going to find relevant results. Second, it's automated, so you don't have to sit there and manually figure all the elements out in terms of how you're going to create rules and regulations. It actually solves the relevancy problem for you. And second, because it's automated, it scales. It can be done in a scaling system. Okay. Next frontier is personalization in search. Okay. Here, this is the second cornerstone, clearly. This is something Google has popularized when in 2009 onwards, it started offering personalized search results based on users' own browsing behavior, their location, etc. So personalization is something that has huge potential in e-commerce to engage customers and improve business outcomes. Until very recently, personalization in e-commerce was synonymous to just recommendations. And that's what everybody sort of thinks about when somebody says personalization. I got to put a recommendation widget, or I got to show something personalized to them when they're looking at a particular product. But it was never talked about in the context of search. And that's where we believe the search technology is also going towards. And the way Unbox approaches this is we actually measure every clickstream data that a customer makes on the site, regardless of whether they're using search or not. Because even when they're not using search, they're giving us important information about them, which could be useful when they actually end up searching for something. So Unbox personalized search auto ranks the results by per search query performance benchmarking and per search query popularity of products. So the system tracks user events like clicks, click-through rates, add to carts, buys, filters, pagination, sorting options. Every single thing has to be clicked, which is why you need a big data system to track all of these things and make some sense out of it and pull intelligence out of that data. So let's say if this was our search results for women's white jeans, we would actually calculate for every single product in the context of this query for women's white jeans, in this context of this query, what is your star product? Because ultimately it is a game of showing the best sellers in the right context. So we then make sure that your star products show up top in the search results and your not so bestseller products show up towards the end. All right. So this is something we wanted to show you, user behavior search in action. Before we get into the next section, it's time for another poll, a quick poll, I promise. Okay. How do you offer personalization on your site today? You offer personalized recommendations to the users, you offer personalized search and recommendations, or you don't offer any personalization on your site. So we'll give you about 30 seconds. Please go ahead and let us know. Okay. So let's move on to the next bit. So let's take next bit is the intelligent design for a great site search experience. So technology alone, this is a very important differentiator we need to clarify. Technology alone will not solve all problems. So we have to make sure that the designing of site search experience is also important. And I'll quickly walk you through some examples. Here's an example of autocomplete which shows both product and category suggestions along with popular products. So it gets designed in such a way that customers can quickly find what they're looking for. Another example where customers are being shown different products based on where they hover in the autocomplete. A very unique design. This is from one of our customers. For them, it was very important to make sure that we showed products that customers have bought in the past. So, because most of their customers are repeat customers, and they come in and buy the same product every time within a month, within 2 months, 3 months, something like that. So very quickly, you can modify quantity and add to cart in one click. So get in and get out in under 60 seconds. This is not really an autocomplete, but showing past searches helps users go back to previously searched products also without using navigation or retyping the query again. So very important. And this should be personalized, by the way. This should be personalized for every customer. This is an example of how you can show top search suggestions on the results page just below the search bar. This makes it very easy where a customer is coming in just to search for one of your top search queries. They don't even have to type that in. They can just click on that link and be done. Faceted search is an integral part of search experience, so it is imperative to offer relevant filters for search results. Take this example of a search for dry cough. Walgreens offer relevant filters based on the brand of medicines, product type, and even symptoms. Here's an example of Macy's, which shows relevant filters for women's dresses, such as occasions, and based on dress attributes, such as length, sleeve length, etc. Here's another example where the site offers exhaustive number of filters for users to pinpoint the exact product customer would be looking for. Here's a search for queries, and you can see on the left and the right, very, very long list of filters. Now here, we want to show you how filters are being persistent. So even if you scroll down for looking at more products on the same page, the filters will continuously persist and always be available. And the most important filters will persist. Results layout. So here, another important element, you want to determine how easy or difficult it is to consume the results for a consumer. So a good results layout helps users to make the initial assessment of the results and its quality, provide an overview of options available to the user along with the breadth of product selection, and it provides enough information to the user to evaluate, compare products, and decide which products to explore and which ones to avoid. Okay. Offering category scope helps users get to the right category. Here's when a user is searching for kids' clothes, which could mean anything. It could mean tops, bottoms, etc. You want to guide the customer because it is not a race to show products to the customer. It's a race to guide the customer to the right set of products. So showing relevant categories like clothing for girls, boys, kids' uniforms, etc. becomes very easy for the customer. List view versus grid view. Companies must use a list and grid view to showcase different kinds of products. Grid view works best for visual products like apparels, accessories, etc. And list view sometimes for commodities and stuff. Likewise, for consumer durables, hardware, electronics verticals, list view works the best. Here's an example from American Eagle Outfitters. If a lady searches for white sandals, the correct image are being shown in the results. So you want to make sure that when customers are searching for the color or the size, and if you have different images for these variances, show the right variance of that product. I'm searching for white sandals, show me the white image of that sandal, the white product of that sandal. Quick view design without taking the customer away from the search results. So here I'm looking at these shades. If I like them, I want to see more of the same kind without leaving the search results. You click on the button, opens up in a modal window. It's a great design experience where customers can very quickly evaluate alternatives. Works great for apparel customers where a huge number of evaluations happen before a customer decides to buy a product. Let's look at zero results. Zero result is a lost opportunity. Maximum number of bounces happen from zero results. So it should be avoided in the first place. But if it does happen, especially because you might not carry a particular product or a brand and a customer is searching for that, in that case, you want to give the customer the opportunity to continue their journey on the site rather than to abandon, because right now they cannot do anything other than search again, which they might not want to do. What we believe in today's day and age, you want to give the customer an option to do is either to go back, so maybe they've looked at some products and they can go back to seeing those products, or go forward by making recommendations based on that user's behavior in that session. All right, I know we are running a little bit behind, so here's some key takeaways from our perspective. Customer expectations with site search are increasing. More and more customers are now using search. So you absolutely want to make sure that you invest in your site search experience, because not only does it is it going to increase, but it's also going to impact your conversions. Okay. Next is most e-commerce sites still use outdated search technologies that result in poor search relevance. And you want to start looking at it by looking at your data. If your customers are not converting optimally, almost 3 times your normal site search conversion, you absolutely are leaving money on the table by not optimizing your site search. Even today, most e-commerce sites offer poor design and usability that results in visitor dissatisfaction. So this is important to note that only technology is not going to solve it. You have to design your search experience also. And anybody else's design is not going to work for you. There's a reason why customers buy from you. You have a differentiator compared to your competitors. You want to make sure that those differentiators actually are instilled in your search experience. The 3 cornerstones for the future of site search are hyper-relevancy, personalization in search, and intelligent design. All right, let me just double check. I know we're running late, but if there are questions, I'll very quickly ask them out. Okay, we have 4 questions. We may only be able to take 2 at a time, so let's just do this. I found user behavior search interesting. Can you give me some numbers as to how a company has benefited from it? That's a great question. We typically see, at the best case scenario, over 6 months, we've actually seen almost 300% improvement in conversion because of user behavior. Now, that is not typical. It is possible, though, but it's not typical. So we have seen somewhere between 50 to 60% improvement at a minimum to up to almost 300% improvement. I have a very large product catalog which continues to grow, and I face a lot of relevancy issues. Okay, can your site search help tackle relevancy? Well, and that's a simple answer. Yes, absolutely, we can. And how do we tackle is also very important, because you might be talking to a lot of folks, even your internal IT team might be talking about solar, but it is very important to understand how this relevancy gets tackled. So we'll definitely try to reach out to you to see if you would like to have this conversation even further. All right, folks, that's all the time we have today for our webinar. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for attending. If you are interested, I highly recommend a free offer that we have. Sign up. Go to unbox.com/greater. Sign up for your site. We will do a very deep analysis of what opportunities might exist on your site. Take a look. If you believe that those opportunities are awesome, you want to capture them, that's fantastic. If not, at least you'll have some understanding on how customers behave on your site, a third-party perspective on what could be done to improve site search experience. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you joining us, and thank you for the opportunity of sharing our information. Bye, everyone.